Hello, everybody, and welcome back to my channel. I am joined today by a very special guest. I'm honored to have Erin Kuhn on my channel, I think for the second time. I don't invite a lot of people on my channel because I don't want to be a podcaster, but I'd like to interview my favorite people. So I'm really honored to have you on my channel tonight, Erin. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be here. So thank you.
Yay! Well, I invited you on because of your new book. I have it right here. Actually, I did Lily's the other day and I wasn't prepared, but today I am. So I have Waking to the Infinite Universe right here. It's a really good read. I was just telling Erin, I haven't finished it yet, but I read a lot, like more than half of it, and it's such a good read. And I just want to say, Tyler,
Thank
I'm
you.
so sorry, Erin. I'm so used to talking to Tyler.
Happens all the time. We're used
I'm
to
like, wait.
it.
I just want to say that I'm not a researcher. So
hmm
most of you guys know that I get pretty much all of my information through my sessions when I channel for my clients. So when I read somebody like you that clearly you've put a lot of time and effort and research into this, and I love that
hmm
you quote a lot of people in here. You
I do,
give
yeah.
so much credit to a lot of people and a lot of other people's books. You even have short excerpts in the books. And I think
hmm
it's great because what I have learned in my journey to truth is that not everybody is open to the spiritual element. Not everybody wants to hear from
hmm
somebody who channels, but
Yeah.
a lot of people are looking for evidence. They want to have proof, or they want it to be put together in this way. And I'm not just saying this to, build your ego, but I think this is my new favorite book to recommend to people that I know, like that are not even just getting started, although it's a great first start for people who
hmm
are newly awakened. But I get a lot of clients that ask me for books, and I don't always know what to tell them because there aren't that many. But now, because of Jackie Kinner's class, there are so
Yeah.
many new books out, and yours, I
Thanks,
think, is
Jackie.
extra
Yeah.
special. Yeah, thanks, Jackie. Yours is
Yeah.
so special, Erin, because I couldn't believe how much information you covered in one book. And I'm just so proud of this book. It's so good.
Thank you.
I'm not just saying that.
Thank you so much. That means
Yeah.
a ton. Thank you.
Yeah, I need to go on and review it next on Amazon. And everybody watching this, if you read it, please review it because it really does help us.
Mhm.
It helps with the algorithms. It helps get it
Yeah.
other people. It gets it out there. And it really is important. So every
Yeah.
review makes a difference. It really does.
It does.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, I can't believe I put it like I can't believe I did it in 6 weeks. I'll say that because um I've been wanting slash kind of trying to write this book for like 6 or 7 years. And um, I would like write a tiny bit and then go 6 months without writing anything and then write a tiny bit, that was the pace I was like writing it. But and even what I had written to start, I rewrote. So I don't even I basically just say I wrote the whole thing in 6 weeks because I basically did. And because that's how long Jackie Kinner's class was. And um, it forced me to get it done. And that's what she said. She's like, I know 6 weeks sounds like a really short amount of time, and it is, but it's meant to be like that for one to force you to get it done and not procrastinate, not go lengths of time without writing because you got to stay in that flow. Forces you to stay in that flow state because I'm just writing every day, for
Mhm.
hours every day. And
Yeah.
but my book, like you said, there's a lot of research in it, and that I think I was one of the few people in the class or in the course that had a book like that. Most people's books were kind of just like their story and just kind of like just a lot of like stream of consciousness, like they're just going through their story with very little like other information coming in and research and stuff like that. Whereas mine is I have my story in there too. It's almost like three different books in one because it starts out really like philosophical more more so, and then it gets into my story and the story of how I met Tyler in the podcast and what got me to where I'm today, and then it gets more into like the information through the rest of the book, and it's really research and information heavy. And like you said, I use a lot of quotes and excerpts because I feel like there's just so much power in a lot of those that it's like I could like just say what that is myself and reword it, but it's not I feel like a lot of times it loses the power, and it's a lot more powerful for me to like I'm like, ooh, I really either like how they said that and I can't say it anywhere close to as good as that, or there's something about I want to use that person's exact words or that exact information rather than just uh, watering it down at all or rewriting it. And also I wanted to show how a lot of different people's information or a lot of different things corroborate and like connect. And I felt like that was a really powerful way to do that as well, because you can see the same threads of truth kind of like throughout so many different areas and so many different people's quotes and different information and all kinds of stuff. Like I really like, more than just the information itself, a goal of mine for the book was to show the big picture of what's going on with just reality. So it's obviously with that it's casting a wide net. Um, but I hit on all these different topics, but I show how they all connect. And I try to like really show what's going on with all of these. What are these, is there truth in all this? What is it? And how do we relate to all of it, all of that? And what's the deepest truth of reality? So I kind of start out the book with philosophical and more of like, who are we? What's the true nature of reality and our true nature a little bit. And then I really hit on that a lot more at the end and tie it together with that as well. And like, yeah, so thank you. I can't believe I wrote it in that amount of time. It was a lot of late nights, staying up till like 4 a.m, literally. And Amanda would be, she'd be in bed for like 6 or 7 hours, and I'm still up
You're just,
writing.
yeah. Well, it's important. It's important work, and it needs to be out. It needed to be out, and it is out. And honestly, I think that
Mm.
this will be on the bookshelf of most people who are awakened or are newly awakened. And it'll be a good reference for a lot of people.
Mm.
And I feel like what you did, Aaron, which somebody needed to do this. Someone needed to do this for all of us. Someone needed to take all the years of information that you've compiled, everything that you have learned, and you have a really
Mhm.
unique position. This is why I think this is even more powerful than just a book. You and Tyler interview so many people with so many
Yeah.
different backgrounds, spiritual, to the most woo-woo and everything in between.
Yeah.
And you have sat and talked one-on-one or 2-to-1 with some of the most amazing people, some of the most amazing guests, and got perspectives from so many ends of the spectrum. And all of that
Mhm.
is in your brain. All of that you
Yeah.
have collected over these years. And now what you've done is something really magical, because you have put it together in such a
Mhm.
organized yet like exciting and provocative and humbling and scary yet necessary, all these things that you have done. And now you've made like a dissertation, to pull it into like 3D terms for a second. It's like
Right.
dissertation that you have done. And now look at all the people who can benefit from picking this book up and saying, where, like, you guys asked an important question the other night. Tyler and Aaron, we did a after party interview with some of the presenters, including myself, from the most
Mhm.
recent conference. And one of you asked a question, I can't remember which one of you, what's your elevator pitch for the
Oh, yeah.
disclosure movement? What would you say? And we all, some of us said something, but I think it's like, what is the book that is the best that you could recommend right now to give to somebody who wants to know a lot of information and in one place? And I think that you've created that. So I
Thank
just
you.
think it was very well done. And I love how you incorporated your own person, because people love to feel like it's
Mhm.
personal too. So it's not
Yeah.
true. It's not like you just did a research paper for a college project. You
Right.
you
Right.
put thought into it. You organized it well. You incorporated some of your own stuff in your own, not your own stuff, your own experiences, and
Mm.
how you collected this information, where you've collected this information, and then you credited so many amazing people along the way.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, thank you. And that, that's why starting out, I'm really glad, like I wrote the book I wanted to write, but once I getting into it, and Tyler can attest to this because I told him I almost changed the book I was writing because I was getting overwhelmed by, I'm like, how am I ever going to finish this book? Because I'm casting such a wide net, and I'm hitting on so many different topics. I'm like, I'm like, oh my God, I was getting overwhelmed. Like, how am I ever going to finish this, in one book? But I knew it was going to have to be multiple books because like there's so much I didn't even include in this book that I wanted to, or didn't like there's certain things I went deeper on, certain things I just kind of touched on more briefly, right? That I could have gone a lot deeper on. So I had a really hard time. I had to figure out what do I want to go deeper on in this book and what do I want to just kind of briefly touch on, or what kind of just save completely for a book down the road because I can't everything I wanted to put in there, the book would have never been finished. But but I
Definitely.
also wanted to write like you said, my personal story, and I knew that was important, like you said, because well, for one, I just wanted to get it out there in a book form, and two, I felt like it really enhanced the book where people can see like I feel my real personness, and be like, oh, it's coming from this place rather than, oh, it's just some random researcher that's looked up a bunch of information and threw it together. It's like
Yeah.
I wanted to show like how I got into this information in the first place, what that journey was like, um, and my relationship to all of this information and what, kind of like make it more personal, like you said. And I think that's what people really want. It's like you want to connect more on that level than just reading a bunch of information, which is fine too. I have plenty of books like that,
Yeah.
but I'm like, I also wanted, so yeah, I was like thinking about the types of books that I really resonate with the most and I like the most. And that I tried to write it more like that because I'm like, well, this is like, if I start reading a book, what turns me off or what gets me, reading. And I tried to like, I'm like, okay, that's how I'm gonna write this book, and that's why I started it the way I did, and that's why Tyler commented. He's like, man, those first three chapters are really powerful, and it like really primes you, for the rest of the book. I was like, well,
Yeah.
thank you. That's exactly what I was going for, because I was thinking of like what really grabs me when I start reading a book, and it's not just like immediately starting out with a bunch of information
Yes.
and you're just like, okay, let me skip to some interesting parts or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like you're just like immediately overwhelmed with a ton of data and information. It's like, no, it's like I
Yeah.
started it out with like, well, uh, it's like takes you on a journey kind of thing. And
It
that's
does.
that's how I tried to write it. So
Yeah.
thank
And
you.
you wrote like you were speaking to people, which I like. That's my writing style. I don't try to sound super intelligent or
Hmm.
put big words
Right.
together, make it sound
No.
poetic. Like I just write like I'm talking to somebody. And I like that you
Right.
did the same. You do it too. And you were funny because you even made jokes throughout your book in
Yeah.
random places where you would put in parentheses like I can't think of an exact example, but like you were like haha
Yeah.
or like you were being
Yeah.
funny about it. And I like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
That's just
Well, I was
that's
telling my
part of like
story
just
and
being human.
yeah, exactly. A couple parts I knew you're referring to. I was telling my first Shasta conference. I had some funny things happen, and I wanted to, yeah, and I like, I wanted that in there, and I think it really helps to like, yeah, insert a little bit of humor here and there at least because I think that's really important, and like not to take, even though this is it's serious information and it is serious, but it's not at the same time, it's like
Yeah.
because ultimately, kind of the whole point of the book ultimately is to say like, hey, look, there's nothing to fear because we are all that ever has been, ever is, and ever will be. Like ultimately, at the highest level, we're all that infinite God conscious energy having a temporary experience, and we'll go on to have many more. We've had many in the past, but really, time doesn't even exist. So the whole point is to say like, hey, everything is we're all that same energy having an experience, and it's like there is no reason to take things way too seriously, and that's why I think humor is so. It's almost like humor to me is like God's way of reminding us that uh, of that truth,
Yes.
and having fun, just like having fun for fun's sake. So yeah, I wanted to make sure I inserted a little bit of that in there as
Yeah.
well, and to just I didn't want it to be too dry or too boring at parts. So I was like, oh, I really hope I don't lose anyone at like certain parts. So
No. I mean, you didn't lose me, and I think anyone that's actually interested in this stuff, you're not going to lose them because
Yeah.
it's so addicting to keep reading and going to the next part. And I want to go through some of these parts that were my favorite, or I felt like I wanted to talk about today, anyways. And you touched on it a little bit, and there were two parts in the beginning chapters where literally I like laughed out loud because I felt myself connecting to that experience with you. So you talked about in 2017, you went to your first eclipse of disclosure. I wrote it down because I wanted to make
Yeah.
sure that I said that
Yeah.
right. Near
Yeah.
Mount Shasta, and you had a lot of profound experiences there. And I think if I'm not mistaken, that was the experience where you went by yourself and you didn't know anybody, and you had two experiences
Mhm.
that I wanted to talk about. One that made me laugh out loud when you were past sage for the first time and you didn't know what
Yeah.
to do with it. So you were just standing there like,
I didn't
and
know
then
what it
you probably
was.
you didn't know what it was. When I
I had
probably
no idea.
because we've all been there where we're like, what do we do with this? Is this herbs? Are we supposed to eat it? Like, what is it?
Yeah,
Um,
because she just gave it to me as if like I already knew, assuming, and I was just like,
yeah.
I didn't know.
Well, tell us
I
about
saw
that
her
for a
like
second.
waving it around, but she just like handed it to me, and I just stood there because I had no idea what it was.
That was so funny. But there was a sweetheart nearby, and she kind of came over and she's like, "Hey, just wave it around," and kind of guided you in what to do.
Yeah, when she realized I was just standing, yeah, she's like, "Oh, he doesn't know what to." Yeah, and she's like, "Dude,
Yeah.
wave it around like this." So I was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
okay, cool." I guess this is like and then I realized like, oh, this is supposed to like cleanse the space, I guess, or I
Yeah.
was still a noob about a lot of like spiritual things at that point. Even though I knew at that point, like, because that was after, my awakening was in 2012, which I talk about in the book, but that was 5 years into it, but I still was a noob to a lot of spiritual things like that. And like, I remember even like Organite, I didn't know what that was at the time. And I don't think I included this in the book, but on on the I drove all the way there, by the way, from St. Louis, which I say in the book, and then in Denver we stopped at this lady. We stayed at this lady's house that we were kind of friends with just from online,
Mhm.
and her roommate like came. I remember came out and brought this beautiful organite pyramid out and was like showing it to me, and I had no idea what organite or
Yeah.
organite pyramids were at the time, and I just thought it looked like a beautiful piece of art, and she was like, she just like, assumed I knew what it was again. Like,
Right.
she's like, check this out. And I was like, oh, wow, that's beautiful. But I had no idea. I thought it was just art. I didn't
Yeah.
know it was like a functional thing. So that was another thing at that time.
Yeah.
And then it was late. It wasn't until sometime later on that I found out what Organite was. And I was like, oh, that's what that one lady showed
Hmm.
me in Denver. I had no idea what it was at the time.
I love
Um,
that. I love that you share those things because it makes you more real, like to everybody, where you're not, trying to act like you knew everything. Like you shared your journey as
mhm.
you went through it. And nobody knows everything right away. I mean, I've been there
Right.
too, where I didn't know where sage was, and I didn't know about crystals, and I learned just like everyone else.
Crystals.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, you talked about an experience. I don't know if you want to share this or you want to save it for the readers, but you had a mushroom experience that was a little bit delayed. And again, I was like, oh my
Yeah.
God, what's going to happen? I was like so excited to finish reading that part because I was like, oh my God, what's going to happen? Do you want to share that or do you want to save it for them to read it?
I'll share a abridged
Share some of it.
version. I'll
Yeah.
share some
Okay.
of it. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so that yeah, that was a funny story. Yeah. Still my only time doing psychedelic mushrooms. That's the one and only time still that I've done them. Um so so every day that I was at the conference, I would go on a hike to McLeod Falls with like a different group of people. And I think it was like maybe I think it was the last day of the conference. I got invited to go with a different group of people. Uh, went on the hike, and this guy, he had a Ziploc bag full of psilocybin mushrooms, and he's just like offered it to whoever wants some, and I was like, oh yeah, I've never done that, but sure, I'll try it. I was like, why not? Um, so I just took a pinch out of the bag. I had no idea how much it was. It seemed like the right amount, and took it, and then continued on the hike, and then we go on the whole hike, get back to the campgrounds, and by this point, I had completely forgotten that I even had taken it. And it's like 2 hours later, or almost 2 hours later, and I completely forgot. And then a guy asked me for a ride into Shasta, into town. It's like 18 minutes away. I was like, sure, I can give you a ride. I don't know what he would need a ride for, but I just dropped him off. As soon as I start heading back to McLeod is when the mushrooms kicked in. And I had completely forgotten I had taken it. And then all of a sudden, and then I remembered as they start kicking, I'm like, oh shit, that's right. I took those mushrooms like 2 hours ago. Oh no. And I was driving when they kicked in. So I was like, okay, I either have to, because I had just started leaving Shasta City to go back to McLeod. And I'm like, do I just turn around and go like wait this out, or do I just try to drive at this point 15 minutes or whatever it is and get to McLeod and hope I get there safely. And I'm like, I'm just gonna keep going. I'm gonna concentrate really hard.
Yeah.
And I'm like driving really slow. I'm driving under the speed limit. Cars are literally going around me because I was driving so slow. And I did not crash though. I made it. I concentrated really hard, but it was scary.
You're divinely protected. I mean,
I was divinely protected, but I was like freaking out the whole time, like, oh my God, I just gotta make it back. And
that's so
yeah,
crazy. I can't believe you. That's amazing. I mean, it's not amazing, but it is amazing about the whole
yes,
the whole
right.
circumstance.
It's not, but it is, right.
Because it reminded me of an experience that I had. I've only taken mushrooms twice in my life, and both times I regretted it. But the first time, my husband now, but my boyfriend back then, we went back then we had Blockbuster, and he's like, we took it, and then he's like, let's go to Blockbuster. We drove to Blockbuster, we're in Blockbuster, and we're heading back, and it kicks in. I'm driving. And all of a sudden the road starts like going like this. And I didn't
you experienced it too.
Yes. Driving and I've never been so scared in my life, Aaron. I was like, oh my God, I can't drive. But the difference between you and me is I froze and I was like, I can't drive. And I stopped in the middle of a main like it wasn't a highway, but a very main street, like a whatever, main artery. And I was like, I can't drive. And at like 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, I literally stopped and I got out of the car and we did a Chinese fire drill. And like I ran, well, I shouldn't say that. I don't know if that's politically correct anymore, but whatever. And I walked around and he came around and we switched places. And I was like, just get me home. And I literally like,
I wish I had that option to do that. I was driving alone, so I did not have that option.
That's crazy. Well, I had a bad trip, and you had you experienced a much more pleasant one. So that was good.
Once I got to the campgrounds, because I was freaking out the drive. I was like, oh my God, But then once I got there, then it was like I was just super blissed out, and I talk about in the book. It was very amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. I think I had this goofy smile on my face the whole time I was back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everyone could totally tell I was on something.
That's a good problem to have, right?
Yeah, totally.
Having a good trip. So let's move on from there. I wanted to talk about how, because I talk about this a lot as well, and I love how you put this in here. But again, you backed your stuff up with research, and you talked I'm talking about the control system, as you called it in that section of the book, and you literally listed four things that it's encompassed by, and you went into a lot, and I wanted to talk about that. So you listed the media, school, entertainment and work kind of as your main pillars of the control system. Do you want to talk about that a little bit? Just kind of like what made you come up with those four, or how you came up with those being like the main? I mean, I agree with you, but I'm just curious.
I think you might be looking at a quote on that.
Was it?
Though that is accurate. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a William Cooper quote here. I have the book.
Okay. Maybe that's what it was. Where you talked about those as kind of being the main pillars of the control system, which I think is becoming
it's accurate
apparent.
though.
Yeah, it totally is.
Very accurate. I'm trying to find that quote. Sorry, 1 second. Yeah, here it is.
Yeah.
So it's a William Cooper quote. I think it's because I have it's in bold. That's why, maybe I can see.
That's what it was.
But yeah, so his quote is: media, keep the adult public attention diverted away from real social issues and captivated by matters of no real importance. Schools, keep the young public ignorant of real mathematics, real economics, real law, and real history. Entertainment, keep the public entertainment below a 6th grade level. And work, keep the public busy with no time to think, back on the farm with the other animals. So yeah, it's like, that's kind of like the four things. Yeah, it's really like the four big areas that the control system uses. So it's like media, you're getting all the programming, beliefs from that. Um, work is kind of tied with financial money. Um, that's like a whole control system, obviously, like keep you working a job you hate or you don't like, all your spending all your time doing that just to survive and support your family rather than like actually living your purpose or actually being able to use your time to like grow spiritually or in a healthy way or spend that time with your family. And then you have education. We're being taught all these lies and indoctrination through that. And you talk all about that. You totally expose how the education is controlled and corrupt. And what you're doing is you're like doing how education should be with our myths. So thank you so much for doing that, because
Thank you.
I feel like
Yeah.
that's what we're moving into in the new earth, is what you're doing now with that. But the current education system is like it's like a prison that is just it's a mind control prison, basically. There's really no other way to put it. And
Yeah.
what's the other one in there?
Media. Media,
Oh,
entertainment.
entertainment. Yeah, duh. So Hollywood, entertainment,
Yeah.
movies and shows, and uh, yeah, I'd even put music in that category. So obviously we know the corruption and all that, and the mind control that goes with that. So
Right.
um, and you know, it's yeah, it's I try to um I tried to like expose and show the control system and how it operates without getting too specific on too because I didn't talk about vaccines. I didn't talk about, sorry if this is YouTube and I said the word, you can edit it. I
Okay.
didn't talk about the C word. I didn't talk about I tried not to get too specific with that, with still like, because I wanted to make this book in general, like anyone in the world could pick up this book and get something out of it and have it a powerful impact. That's kind of what I was going for. And I know a lot of people have their certain beliefs and certain programming on things that um I wanted to be like get um go beyond people's egos and programming and just show like how it works and like can you see it, here's how it operates, here's what's going on, and now see if you can see it yourself rather than just focusing on specific things too much, but and kind of like energetically and spiritually also how it works. And I use a lot of quotes in that chapter because I feel like there's a lot of people that really powerfully put those in a way that I was like, man, I really like
Yeah.
how they said that and how they put it. And I'm trying to like paint this picture for people of like, here's the control system that's like overlaid onto the natural world, the natural, beautiful world that we live in. But then there's this control system that's on top of it that's parasiting off of humanity and trying to keep us enslaved and mind controlled. And I try to do it in a way that like anyone reading it could, even if they don't believe in conspiracies or any of this stuff, could like plant that seed at least. So,
Yeah.
that can like, still get implanted in their conscious, like still have that idea implanted so they can see, start to wake up. Because, the ego likes to hold on to its beliefs and be very resistant to anything outside of that. But um, if you can bypass the ego, and I tried to write that at least in a way that can try to like bypass people's egos and wake them up to the control system so that they can start taking their power back rather than continually just going unconsciously along with the programs of the control system and feeding into it, which is what so much of humanity has been doing for a long time. And it's like uh if you can like get them to see it, that's almost like half the battle, like seeing the programs for what they are, seeing what you're in, and then you can naturally start to hopefully take your power back. So that's a big theme of the book in general, is taking your power back
Yeah.
and creating the reality that you want to create, uh living the life that you want to live rather than what someone else is telling you to live or telling you what to create or programming you with. Like, are these really your beliefs? Are these really your
Yes.
identities, or is this something that someone else handed to you that you've adopted and you've just been kind of going on autopilot with your whole life? And that was my awakening. I talk about that with my very initial awakening. I realized I had just been running programs my whole life that I'd never questioned, and I'd attached my identity to those programs and to those beliefs, and I thought I was those beliefs basically, and I suddenly realized, wait a second, I never in the first place like had my own personal journey to find these things. I just adopted them from as far back as I can remember, and I've just attached my identity to it. And you know, once I had that epiphany, I was like, I just wanted the truth. You know, I just like, well, now I want to go on my own journey to truth. You know, like the name of the show. It's
Yes,
like, and that's
exactly.
all I cared about. You know, that's all I just wanted the truth, and I wanted to figure out what's really going on. Who am I really, and what is the nature of reality really? And I just would go down every rabbit hole in every area that, no matter how weird it seemed or how, you know, not acceptable to society it seemed or whatever, like ETs
Hmm.
and UFOs and stuff, and all the way to like the conspiracy information, all the way to all the more esoteric spiritual information, or um yeah, just like everything. And
Yeah.
that's, I talk about, you know, my process of that. But it's like I feel like, you know, in the control system, you're discouraged from thinking for yourself, right? You're given these like preset boxes of like, here you can believe this, you can believe this, you can either
Yeah.
do the religious thing, you can go in one of these religions, or you can be, you can do the atheist materialist science box, and that's it. There's like, and you're given these like preset things that are acceptable, but then it's like, no, but don't think for yourself, don't you know, find truth for yourself. That's like discouraged, you know, like, and that's exactly what everyone needs to be doing. It's the exact opposite. Like whatever they tell you, almost whatever the institutions or the media or whatever of society tell you, it's like reverse that 180 degrees, and that's the truth, or that's what you should be doing. Whatever they tell you you shouldn't is almost always what you should be doing.
Yeah,
And I don't know if you
exactly.
saw, yeah, I don't know if you saw like not too long ago, like there's all these mainstream media articles coming out saying, telling people, don't think for yourself, don't do your own research, don't go down the rabbit hole,
Right?
don't. It's like all the things everyone should be doing, and they were all
Yeah,
like, they're trying, they like, they could see like the spell was starting to be broken, and people were waking up, they're like, no, we gotta,
exactly.
they're like trying to like re-emphasize that program, and there was like all these articles coming out saying the same things, just slightly worded differently,
Yeah,
and it was just really
exactly.
funny. And they're
That's
still doing
awesome.
it to this
Oh
day,
yeah,
you know.
they're not going to stop. They're not going to give up.
Right,
And exactly what you said, the spells are being broken the more people wake up. So
right.
now they're panicking. And I love the theme of your book because it's the
Hmm.
theme of every single book I've written, and continues to be the theme of my new book coming out. And and empowerment, taking your power back, starts by the disclosure and the information. Not that everyone needs to sit and know everything, but it's what do you need to know to wake you up from your programming. And I like how you give a plethora of information for people to, like you said, some stuff is expanded and other things are much shorter. But the idea is that you're giving people, you're planting the seeds and opening their eyes to something else that they're not used to, or maybe they're just starting to become used to something new, new pathways of information. And that's how you get your power back, through knowledge, through information, not the junk information, the 3D information, but true knowledge is the pathway to that power that you are helping people find through the information in your book. And what people do from there is not your burden to bear. It's not your responsibility. You've provided
Hmm.
the information, and they do with
Yeah,
it what they want. And hopefully my
yeah.
books are doing the same for other people, in my own way, because I think people need to hear it in different ways. Some people are more, logical, left brain. I need to
Hmm.
see the evidence, give me quotes, show me other books I can research. And then others are okay with
More
my style, where they're like,
information.
I like the channeled information, I like the spiritual element, and some people like both. So it's
Yeah.
what you're doing is really necessary. What do you think, Aaron? What are some things that you've noticed right now that are showing signs that those pillars, for example, going back to media, schools, entertainment, and work, are breaking down? And I'm talking about the 3D versions of those paradigms. Now, we talked about schools and with what I'm doing, and that's some proof that people are looking for an alternative platform of education for their children. They want more for their children. And we're
Mhm.
seeing it. More and more people are exiting public schools every single day. That's my
Yeah.
arena of expertise. But what are some other things you're seeing, Erin, with regard to media, or are people watching less news or entertainment? Are people watching less of this or buying into less celebrities or work? People are quitting their jobs and trying to do their passions. Like, what are some of the things you're seeing?
I'm seeing all of that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'm seeing, you know, I'm seeing, we talk about the awakening and the ascension that's happening, which in my opinion is very much speeding up, and it's very much happening. And the symptoms of that and the manifestations of that are all those things where people, so let's start with education. So people are being more and more drawn to things like what you're doing, or at the very least homeschooling rather than putting their kids through the public school system or even private school. If they're choosing, like, homeschooling is exploding right now, and it's really started exploding when COVID hit. um and it just like has been growing ever since, even more rapidly. So more and more people are waking up to realize, like, the public school system is not, it's not really true education. It's indoctrination, and it's programming in a negative way, really, for their kids. It's more of a negative than a positive, for their kids. And that's you're basically setting your kids up on a negative for the rest of their life. And then they have to now work out of that programming and, like, get out of that. And they're like, that's horrible. Why would anyone want their kids, if they love their kids? Why would you put your kids through a system like that when you see it for what it is? And more and more people are waking up to that. And so I'm seeing that. Um I'm seeing work. People are realize they're quitting their 9 to 5s that they hate, or their corporate jobs that hate, that they were just doing for money or status or whatever before, or because they thought, they got a degree and they just followed along with that, and didn't really, oh, it's paying the bills, whatever. It's like, well, are you really happy though? Is this really how you want to be spending your time?
Yeah.
How much free time do you have with this? All these questions, like, the things that are more that are the most valuable, they're waking up to, and they're realizing it's not worth trading that to make money. And it's like, or, they realize I can still make enough money doing something else that I actually like, or that's actually my passion, or that actually is something I want to be spending my time doing, and support my family, if you have a family, and have a lot more free time. I'm seeing that. I'm seeing people working from home, or finding jobs that they they're not tied down to a location or a certain place, and they can even work online, and or
Yeah.
just stepping into, like, finding out what makes them come alive, and what they're passionate about, and then working towards building a career from that, whether that's their own business or whether that's working for somebody else. I'm seeing that way more and more, which is amazing. I feel like that's what I'm doing now. That's what Tyler's doing now through the podcast, and now all the other things. And now we're making webinars, documentaries. I just wrote my first book. So we're doing all these other things. It's more than just a podcast now. And we're doing conferences. Like, you were just a speaker this year and last year at our conference that we just did the third year in a row. And, we're so blessed that it's like we followed our like soul's calling of what we were being pulled to do, rather than just following what someone else told us. Oh, no, you can't make money doing that. You need to do this, which is what a lot of people are running that
Mhm.
program of, like, society or their parents or their friends or whatever, telling them, oh, no, this is what you can do, these things, because this will actually make money, or this is acceptable, but you can't do that. That's, for whatever reason, or you can't make money doing that. It's like, well, who cares? Like, do what's more important, making money, or, like, being truly happy, and living from your heart. That's what's more important, in my opinion. And then the money will come if you truly are on the right path, in my opinion. Like, that takes, faith and courage, though, a lot of the time, but it will happen, and it's worth it. It's worth whatever you have to go through to get there. But I'm seeing that more and more. I'm seeing people aren't watching media anymore. Basically,
Yeah.
like, their ratings are in the toilet, they're
Yes.
continually dropping. Like, no one believes them anymore, because they've destroyed their credibility, because the lies are so obvious, and the propaganda is so obvious now, and the mind
Mhm.
control is so obvious to so many people, and people are waking up more and more. COVID was a huge catalyst in that because it was so obvious, especially once the jab started getting rolled out that they're just completely blatantly lying to push
Yeah.
agendas. Like it's, and so many people that were completely asleep to all this stuff before that, that was, I hear so many people are like, that's what woke me up.
Hmm.
It was either when the pandemic first kind of started in 2020, or it was 2021 when the jab started getting rolled out. It was like, that was what woke so many people up because they're like, whoa, this is not, what I'm told something is not what it is. Like the media is supposed to be the news, and it's not. It's just a propaganda machine that's pushing these agendas that are not in my best interest, not in humanity's best interest. In fact, they're the exact opposite of that. Um, so yeah, trust in that is in the toilet as
Yeah.
it should be, and it's continually, but there's also a split happening where there's a lot of people that are digging in further into the matrix and into the fear, kind of like digging their heels in deeper into all that. And then there's, you know, a lot of people waking up and getting out of that at the same time. So I'm seeing both, but I am seeing the awakening happening, I would say more so. And what was I gonna say? Um,
Entertainment.
yeah,
I mean, it's kind of along the same
entertainment.
lines too.
Hollywood, yeah, everything's being exposed right
Yeah.
now. Like how corrupt and evil it is, and the mind control that's going on there, and all the crazy satanic, rituals that go on, and the child trafficking and all of it. It's like all these
Yeah.
dark truths that it's like things aren't getting worse, they're just getting uncovered. So it's like all this stuff's been going on for a long time, but now we're all seeing it in front of our face way, way more clearly than ever before. And people, you know, we're all waking up to it for the first time, or
Hmm.
most of us for the first time, or at least to how bad it is for the first time, and
Yeah.
how even mind controlled we were to certain degrees, and we didn't realize it until now. And it's all happening more and more. So it's like we don't need to fight the system. That's what the system wants you to do, and I talk about that in the book. That's actually a big trap. Is that they want you to either spending all your energy and focus and attention on feeding into the system and staying in the programs, or being really, really, really angry at it and fighting it and feeding it all your energy, and then
Hmm.
you're still feeding it actually.
Right.
And that doesn't mean like we need to talk about it, we need to expose it, we need like what you do in your books, what I do in my book, what we talk about in our shows. uh but then once you're awake to it, now it's like, okay, now I'm going to put my energy and attention on creating the life that I want to create, or creating what I want to create. And
Yeah.
stay in that love frequency, because they want you in the lower frequencies of fear, guilt, shame, depression, which
Yeah.
keeps you powerless, keeps you giving your power away, and keeps them being able to feed off of that loose energy off of you. So they can keep parasiting, the system can keep parasiting off of you, and the entities behind the system, which you could call demons, you could call archons, whatever term you want to use. There are non-physical entities, in my opinion, and I talk about this in the book, that are kind of at the top of the pyramid running the show of the system. And the only reason it keeps going is because we're feeding them through
Yeah.
the system itself that they've manipulated us into uh
Yeah.
feeding into. So it's like all we have to do is stop doing that, take our power back, and our energy goes back to ourselves, and then we can actually consciously create rather than unconsciously being parasited and feeding into this beast system that we've been
Yeah.
manipulated into.
Yeah.
So
Very well
I see that
said.
happening.
Very well said. And that leads me to my next point that I wanted to talk about, which you so like perfectly went right into that. Is you said very well in the book, in a perfect world for them, we would be an enslaved race, like, outwardly, like it would be
Yeah.
clear, like we would be under control. But because there's so many of us, they have to trick us into submission through the
Hmm.
programming and manipulation, all of these things, so that we're tricked into being enslaved without actually realizing it, although many
Yeah.
are waking up to it. But
Yeah.
you talked about the problem, reaction, solution, which I thought was great how you brought that in there. Do you want to talk about what that means and why they do that? Because I think it really ties into how we're manipulated.
Yeah. So David Icke is the one that came up with the term problem reaction solution. which I like a lot because it just tells you exactly what they do, and that's one of, if not the most used tactic that they use to push their agendas and get us to fall into the agendas and feed into them ourselves, trick us into it without us realizing it. Because if they told us what they wanted us to do, we would never do it, right? Obviously, right?
Yeah.
So they have to play these tricks all the time and do these little sneaky manipulations. So the most common one is problem reaction solution. Another term for it's the Hegelian dialectic. And what that is they have the agenda or the thing they want us to do or the thing they want to happen. And they're like, all right, how do we get humanity to do this thing? Because they're never going to do it if we just, even if we just force them into it. Like they could do these things by force, but it's not really going to work because then we rebel, and then it just doesn't work, and especially not in the long term. And then their system starts breaking down because we know the game and we know what they're trying to do, and then we know who they are, So they have to keep the secrecy going and keep these tricky games going to get the system to keep working, get us to keep going deeper and deeper into what they want us to do. So what they do is they create a problem themselves, and we call these false flags a lot of times, or where they'll create some kind of problem, and then the whole world goes, oh no, there's this problem, and we react to it the way they know we're going to react to it naturally. And then they come in with the solution to the very problem that they created in the first place, because the solution is not really a solution that's helping humanity. It's just further enslaving humanity or further pushing this dark agenda that they wanted to do in the first place, but they need an excuse to do it. So they're like, all right, they just rinse repeat that formula over and over. So they're like, all right, we're gonna do 9/11, for example. Clearly a false flag, clearly a fake orchestrated. Real people died, and real people die usually in these things. We're not saying that's what happened. What we're saying is it was an orchestrated, intentionally orchestrated thing by these dark players for a specific reaction, for a specific solution. So they do 9/11. Then we all go, oh my God, we can never let this happen again. And they're like, oh yeah, we can't. So we're gonna take all these freedoms, and we're gonna go to war with the terrorists and go fight in this war, which is not about fighting terrorists at all. It's about something else entirely.
Yeah.
And then all your tax dollars and money is pouring into that. Your freedoms are being eroded and going away. All these other agendas are being played out that are further enslaving humanity and further getting us to feed into this dark system, keeping us in fear and traumatized just by the event alone, which is why they like things like war and things like a major false flag where a lot of people die like that, because it traumatizes humanity, which is mind control works really well with trauma. And that's how like MK Ultra works really well. It's the basis of it. So they traumatize humanity so they can immediately come in with their mind control, and we just buy hook, line, and sinker. Those programs go into our consciousness every time, right? And then we not only let them do what they want to do, but we beg for it. We're
We
like, oh
beg
yeah,
for it.
please do these things. Yes, you're saving, because we
Please
think they're
surveillance everything we do with the Patriot
right.
Act. We want you to listen to every conversation.
Right. Right. So that's kind of, that's problem reaction solution. But humanity is waking up rapidly now to that game and to what the real agendas going on are. And you can tell they're desperate in many ways, but one of the biggest ways is that they're not even trying to be subtle anymore.
Yeah, no.
They're just blatantly out there telling you what they want to do and what they're doing. And like you look at the World Economic Forum, saying, "Oh yeah, humans are you're hackable animals that we can just do with you what we want to do and manipulate your DNA, and there's no such thing as a soul or spirit. That's all nonsense." And it's just kill or be killed. And this is the cabal's mindset. This is what they actually believe, is that, well, they believe in the soul and spirit, but other than that, they do believe that it's like kill or be killed. If you're stupid enough to fall for all these games we're playing, then you deserve your enslavement. You deserve everything we do to you. they put themselves on a pedestal, like you're just these useless eaters that, since we're dominating and ruling you, then that means you're worthless, and we can do what we have. They justify it in all these ways, right? Because they're
Yeah.
psychopaths, and
Yeah.
that's what they do, right? And they actually enjoy the suffering and pain of humanity. If you can believe that, that's what, it's
Yeah.
hard for us to understand the mind of psychopaths, because it's there's zero empathy, and it's a completely opposite way that we naturally are as humans, or that humans that aren't psychopaths are. Um,
Yeah.
but that's the people running the show, and that's why they do all these things. And really they have, these, you could call them demons or negative entities, that are possessing many of them, or attached to many of them, that are working through them. So it's not humans at the top of this pyramid. It's these
No.
non-human entities that are very, for lack of a better term, demonic. That just paints a good picture in people's minds, that like those are the entities running the show behind the system. And that's why all these things happen. And the only way they can happen is if we keep being manipulated into feeding it. Because the second we're not manipulated anymore, then they're going to go somewhere else. And here's the other thing. So the planet is ascending. The energy is raising, the frequency is raising on the planet. And that's another reason they're freaking out right now, because they know their time's up. They know they have to lock stuff down now, or it's now or never. And they're trying to basically take as many souls, locked down as they possibly can, or as many people with them as they can, while they still can. They know their time is very, very limited right now, because things are speeding up and the awakening speeding up. So they're just kind of like throwing out everything right now.
Yeah.
And that's backfiring, because that's waking up more
Exactly.
people the more they do that, which makes
Yep.
them freak out more, and then that wakes up more people. So it's this like vicious circle, that it's like, it's a great thing in my opinion, because that means, they're done. It's just a matter of how is this going to play out, and are you going to keep feeding into it, you basically, everyone has the free will to choose what reality they're going to experience, based on what you're feeding into, and where your energy is at, where your frequency is at, and what you put into your body, even, that could affect all that, which, I'll let you, think about that one. So that's, in my opinion, why they're so desperate about getting things injected into you, and certain other things out all right now, like as fast as possible, and start World War III, all of it, because they're so desperate to just like, we're their food source, right? So
Yeah.
the more people that wake up and take their power back, they just lost those people as a food source. So so
Absolutely.
much so much of humanity is doing that, and they're like, oh no, our food source is going away. We need to lock what we have, left down as quickly as possible, and they're flipping out. So
Yeah.
that's
And
kind
like
of
you
what.
said, the more they shoot themselves in the foot, the more people will wake up, because
Mhm.
they're so sloppy right now that
Right.
even the people that had cognitive dissonance before, the people that were so like their heels were in the sand so firmly, are like, hold on a
Right.
second, and they're starting to wake up. And there all these movies are coming out, and I'm curious if you saw the new movie Civil War, because there's a
Oh,
lot of yeah, I saw it the other day.
I,
There's a
I
lot
I
of,
haven't seen it yet. I've heard about it
I
though.
don't want to say too much because it's still new and I don't want to ruin it for anybody, but I think it's obvious what the movie is about. But again, it's about standing up for our rights, and I feel like there's a lot of truth to what a lot of parallels to what that movie was portraying. And one thing
Mhm.
that I call them the dark players. One thing that the dark players
Yeah.
failed to, what am I trying to say? How am I going to word this? What one way they failed is with their predictive programming through the movies, and how they, the apocalypse type movies, and all of these
Mhm.
negative movies have these negative connotation, where
Yeah.
they always show triumph, right? So the humans always, well, most of the time win in majority of the movies, because they know that we can't stand, if we saw movies where we were killed time after time, we wouldn't watch them. So in the end, we always win.
Right. Doesn't
But what
work.
they but what they don't realize is that at the same time, they are rooting in our subconscious all the fear and the programming of
Mhm.
the wars, and we're somehow
Yeah.
subliminally consenting to it because we watch the movies. Yes, all of that is true. But what they fail to recognize is that all these triumphs that we have been programmed to see repetitively throughout our whole life, and how we've won every single time, they have to recognize that that's embedded in our subconscious as well. So we are innately fighters. Otherwise, our species
Yeah.
wouldn't be alive this long. So I think that that
Right.
was a card that they missed, that we are fighters, we
Mhm.
are warriors, and we are standing up for our rights. And they missed the boat on that one because they taught us how to triumph, and they didn't realize that that was going to backfire on them. What do you think about
Yeah.
that?
No, absolutely. And so many other things that I think, it's almost like, and then it's funny because what do we see in so many movies or stories is like, what's the downfall of the villain so often? It's the arrogance. The arrogance and the ego
Yeah,
of the villain is its own downfall. And that's exactly their downfall. They're so arrogant. They're so freaking arrogant that
yeah,
they think they're like, oh my God, we can. And then that's also like I was saying before, we can literally tell you what we're doing. And yes, that is part of how the magic is more powerful when they do that, and they think they're alleviating karma, even though my opinion, they're not. Um, but they're like, we can literally put it in plain sight and tell you what we're doing, and because they're so arrogant. And then, but now people are actually seeing it and waking up, and they're like, oh no, shit, that's not supposed to happen. But also what you just said, yeah, like you're also they're also because it doesn't well that's also like a built-in mechanism maybe you could say of the universe is to allow that doesn't allow evil to fully ever win because like you said the other programming doesn't really take root or work unless they do that because we won't like the movies we won't watch it or we'll be turned off by it we're like oh that's horrible unless they have the victory at the end where we triumph but because they do that like you said now we have that programming deep within us as well so there it's inevitable that we're going to triumph because that's how it
exactly.
works whatever we believe is what we're going to create and what we're going to do and that's it so like humanity like you said we are fighters and you know we are good at our core and we are warriors at our core in my opinion and that it's like more and more and more people are that core within them is like coming out now and the outer programming and the outer like other stuff is like starting to dissolve more and more and more
Yeah,
because of the times we're in and because of all these catalysts that are waking people up um and it's just beautiful to see and it's like because of you and our show and all of the other amazing people that are speaking out and doing shows and writing books and making movies and documentaries and go down the list
so many.
just talking to people just I like it's amazing to me like even 10 years ago like I'd never heard people out and about talking or wearing shirts or like things about any of this stuff and now I'm seeing it all over the place and it's
Everywhere.
amazing. It's everywhere. It's amazing. I'm like, holy crap, this is like people are waking up, it's
It
amazing.
is.
But at the same time, there's a lot of people that are doing the opposite. And that's where they're at. And that's, they need a lot more 3D lives of going through all the stuff, in my opinion. But those of us that are like ready for this level or star seeds that came from a higher level, in my opinion, that are here, I think you and I are, and basically probably everyone at the conference we were just at it's like we've already mastered or gone through the 3D in my opinion but we are here at this time in service to the planet but we're also learning things at the same time as well but that's why it was so much easier I think for a lot of us to wake up rather than let's say the newer souls that all they've ever had is like however many lifetimes on earth with heavy, heavy, heavy programming, right? So think about how much harder it is for somebody like that to wake up than
Yeah,
it is for people that are a lot older of a soul that have had many other experiences in other dimensions and other planets, and without that type of programming, um, you know, there's a lot more going on. Let's just say that than just like this one life and what we see on the surface, and that is, it's like you can really, really see though the split happening in humanity of those that they're just not going to wake up in this life, or at
yeah,
least they might. The information's all coming out about the dark stuff, but a lot of people are not going to be able to handle that well, or even if they can accept it, it's like they're still not going to wake up to these greater truths or to who they really are, and they're going to cling to like a religion or to whatever gives them comfort but then you have this, you know, the rest of humanity that's waking up, that's taking their power back, that's becoming a sovereign being or stepping into their sovereignty. You're already a sovereign being. You're owning it and stepping into it.
Yeah.
And that we're coming together in the love frequency, and rather than like fighting each other and separation, we're like more coming together and realizing we're all the same, and you know, that is happening at the same time as the opposite of that is happening. And that's where, you know, you hear a lot of people talk about the split, and it's like, I don't know how that's going to play out exactly, but I can already see it playing out, but I can see the new earth being birthed right now. And
Yeah.
the beautiful, you know, future ahead of us. I can already see the early seeds of it that are starting to grow and formulate. That I think it's just going to keep getting more and more, while the chaos and the craziness is going to get more and more for a little bit, for
Yeah.
at least a little while longer. And it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But all you can do is do what you can do, you know, and, you know, I wouldn't say even like stay safe, because there's, you know, there's really nothing to fear because you're not your body, you know, it's just an experience you're having. And I truly believe, like, if you're on your mission, if you're living out the purpose that you're meant to live out in this life, then you're not going to go until it's your time. And but
Yeah.
obviously you want to have common sense and do things to prepare and all that, obviously. But um you know, rather than living in fear, I think we need to, it's now is the time to be brave and to be courageous and to live from our heart and
Yes.
live the life that we are meant to truly live, no matter, without fearing what anyone else thinks or the consequences or any of that. Because um you know, that's the frequency we're moving out of, and we're moving into the frequency, which is what the planet is moving to, is the frequency of love, unity, and freedom and authenticity. All of that. That's where the planet's going, and you're either going to go with the planet or you're going to have to go somewhere else, because you're not frequency specific to this planet, because that's where it's moving, and that's why everything's being
Yeah.
exposed right now. Everything's coming to light. That's why there's so much chaos, because you have the old energies and the old control systems and dark players that are like trying to cling on to what's been here for thousands of years and
Yes.
fighting against all that kicking and screaming, right? And then you have the new coming in. So we're in the phase right now of like the chaos of both.
Yeah.
You have the new and the old, and there's like they're both
We're all in
like
the washing machine together.
right. We're on the washing machine together, and like the new is coming whether the old likes it or not, but the old's like
Yeah.
fighting, kicking, and screaming, you know, going
Yeah.
down, and you're either going to go one way or the other, basically. And it's up to each individual to choose. No one can force you to do that. That's
Yeah.
your own free will. And that's why, yeah, and like the book, I even say at the very beginning, I'm like, look, I'm not trying to convince you of anything. In fact, I don't want you to believe anything in this book just because I'm saying it or because it's in this book. I'm like, I just hope it can spark something within you, or at least some curiosity, or pick your interest at the very least, so you can go on your own journey, right? I just want you to go on your own journey, but here's what helped me, and here's what I've found on my journey, and now you make of that what you will. But that's to each person, you know,
Yeah.
individual
Well, it's
person.
almost like it's like here's a map. There you go. Here's
Yeah,
a map.
right. Here you
Here's
go.
a guide.
Right.
If you have questions, you know, like here's your
Right.
map.
Right.
And I think
And
it's great. I think it's great, Aaron. You have so many amazing topics in the book that we can't possibly cover tonight. And I have so many more things that I wanted to talk about. I mean, you even go into like the parallels of Star Wars, the show or
mm,
the series, whatever show, and Star Trek,
movie,
the movie. Yes, thank you. And Star
whatever it is.
Trek and so many amazing things. I
Stargate,
wanted,
yeah.
huh?
Stargate also. Yeah,
Yes.
because I tried to show how so many of the shows and movies we watch are disclosing truth and
Yeah.
the guise of fiction, you know. And we just think, oh, that's a nice story. It's like, no, that's all true. This is all reality that they're telling
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, you go
Uh,
into that in depth. You also go into you talk a lot about David Wilcox
mhm,
and his book Ascension Mysteries and so
mhm.
many great things that you tie into this book. So we couldn't possibly cover it all. And I think what you just said in the last several minutes was perfect, just kind of wrapping everything up. Your intentions are clear, at least to me and anybody with integrity that's looking at you and looking at this, that your intentions are pure. this is what I've learned from my journey to truth. I'm sharing it with the collective for those that resonate and are willing to listen to my journey to truth and all of the information that's in it. And it's a guide, but it's not by any means complete. No one has the complete version, but it's a lot of information. And like you said, I know what it's like to not be able to fit everything into one book and feeling like, oh, I wish I had put that in, or
Yeah.
it's just not possible.
I've,
So I'm
I've
sure
gone through
there will
that.
be more.
Yeah.
Um,
I keep being like, oh man, I should have put that in.
yeah.
Oh, I forgot to put that.
I mean,
That's
I
all right.
just
It'll be in
finished
the next book.
my last book, and I already the other day I was like, shoot, I didn't put that in. Oh well, I'll just write
Yeah.
another one.
Right.
You
It'll be in the next book.
know, just
Right.
another one.
Right.
But I want to thank you for coming on and sharing your book and your journey a little bit, and your theme of, knowledge is equals empowerment, and then empowerment is triumph, and that's what
Mhm.
ascension is about. It's about
Yeah.
when we have the right knowledge and we sit with it and we do the work and we go within, we can then look at each other as not the enemy, but as our friends. And how can we build a community? And that's why I love you guys so much. Like, from the bottom of my heart, I truly mean that. The Journey to Truth community is a group that is magical. What you guys have created, and what by attracting through your energy and your intention. And you have a beautiful community, and we all feel like a family because we are, in essence, all family. And I feel like we are embodying the community that we are creating at large through the collective awakening and ascension, which is what it's about. Like you said, it's about love, unity, oneness, coming together
Hmm.
and accepting each other, not judging each other, forgiving each other, loving each other, and then exploring the infinite universe together.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Thank you so much.
Well,
Thank
Aaron,
you. And
where can everyone
yes.
find your book? I'll put the link below. Is it available on Barnes and Noble too, or just Amazon
No,
right now?
no, I'm gonna look into that. It's
Okay.
currently only available on Amazon.
Okay.
And Amazon might be doing some shenanigans with censoring some reviews. I'm not entirely sure yet, but it looks like they might be. Hopefully that doesn't continue, but if it does, oh well. But yeah, currently it's only available on Amazon, but I will look into Barnes and Noble and see if I can get it on there as well, or maybe some other things.
Yeah.
And I know you have a new book. Is it already out or is it coming out
It's
soon?
coming out. It's maybe in a few weeks. So just at the
Okay.
final editing stages, formatting, all the end stuff right
Yeah.
now.
Oh
So
yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, can't wait for that because your last book was phenomenal, by the way. I read it and it was
Oh, thank
everything you
you.
said about my book, I felt like about you about that book. It
Oh,
was
good. Thank
amazing.
you.
So
Oh, that makes me feel amazing.
everyone buy Sherri's last book, Starseeds in the New Earth, right? Is that what it's called?
Starseeds and the Great Awakening.
And the Great Awakening, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And I
A
can't
lot
wait
of
for
titles
your
to remember.
yeah, yeah. I can't wait for your new book too, because I'm sure it's gonna be phenomenal as well.
Oh,
So
thank you. Thank you.
yeah.
But I want to honor your book today, Aaron. I really enjoyed it. Is there any last words that you want to, that sounded like so somber. Any last words?
Yeah. Any
Is there
last words?
anything else you want to say about this book, or perhaps maybe a part two coming out at some point, or
Yeah, yeah. I'm planning on writing Waking to the Infinite Universe Part Two or Book Two or Volume Two or whatever I'm gonna end up
uh
titling it. I'm planning on sometime next year releasing that, maybe earlier in the year. Probably next year is kind of what I'm shooting for, but we'll see. Things can always change. Um, and it's kind of I want to like pick up where this book left off for that book kind of thing, and um make it even better, if I can, hopefully. But we'll see what happens. But yeah, yeah, sometime I would say definitely within the first half of next year is what I'm shooting for to release book two. But in the meantime, I would love it if you would check out uh book one, this
yeah,
one.
yeah, definitely. I
Yeah.
highly recommend it. If you already have Aaron's book and you haven't reviewed it, please go on and do that, because it
Yeah.
helps us out a lot, and he deserves a review. I mean, it's incredible. So
Thank you.
I'll
Thank you.
promote you any way I can, and I'll put your link to the Amazon to purchase in the description. So thank you so much, Aaron. I appreciate you
Thank
coming
you
on
so
and
much.
sharing everything.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's such a blast and an honor being on. Thank you. You're amazing. Yeah. I mean,
Oh,
the work you're doing is phenomenal and like it's so important. So Thank you so much for everything
You're
that you do.
so welcome. You're so welcome. Well, thanks for watching, everybody. Until next time, we'll see you guys soon. Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.